just because you can doesn't mean you have to or you should. But increasing your capacity allows me to show up when the time demands it.
Yo, 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 lovers. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Sex, Love, and Everything in Between. We're the O'Neills. You're here with Meg and Jacob.
And this is the place we have really uncensored conversations about sex, intimacy, and relationships. We're super excited you're here. Enjoy this episode.
Yo, yo, lovers. Welcome back to Sex, Love, and Everything in Between. Meg is still in bed. She's sleeping away, 38 weeks pregnant. And I've been reaching out to all my bros overseas and been jumping online to interview them, to bring them onto the podcast and pretty much just fill up our calendar because we're going to be in the baby bubble pretty soon. And today I've got my bro, Jose, he's an OG for me because he was someone that I met early on in my journey with men's work, with personal development, and with like really just learning how to build an online presence. And for me, Jose, he's a men's life and leadership coach. He's a somatic practitioner. He's a men's work facilitator. He's a rite of passage guide. He's a business consultant. He's got this beautiful range of gifts that he offers the world through his services. But one of the things that I've loved witnessing and almost like journeying alongside this bro is that in the personal development world, it's very easy to get caught up by the shiny lights of like the 10K months and the 20K months and scale to 100K and make 7-8 figures and all of these things. And a lot of people get caught up in that and they get chewed up and spat out. And what I've witnessed in this man is that he's stayed in it for the right reasons. And I've seen a devotion to his relationship, to the depth of his work. And it's at times kept me inspired to stay in the seat as well. You know, there's been so many times where I've been like, I'm throwing the towel in. And then when I see guys like you and a lot of the men over in America doing this work and staying the course, it reminds me that, you know, this is normal. There are other men doing this, and it's important that we stay in it and serve in this way, man. So I'm just so grateful that you've been willing to jump on and have a chat with me, bro. And selfishly, I just wanted to catch up and have a chat with you as well, man. It's been so long.
Yeah, well, what a beautiful way to do it, man. Really honored to be here. I really appreciate that warm welcome, and I feel seen. So I really love the way that you just shared your perspective on how you see me, because that's how I try to show up in the world. And there's definitely the parts that the parts of me that creep up and are like, that's not fucking true, and just honoring those parts right now, just allowing myself to receive what you shared, and excited to be here, excited to dive in, maybe share a little bit of my story to support someone else to show up in that way.
That's where I'd love to start, man, a little bit about your story. And, I'm just going to hand it over to you, man. Like how, we do have a lot of women and a lot of men listen to this. It's pretty even, but like for anyone out there that may be walking an entrepreneurial path and wanting to deepen in relationship and holding kind of these two massive things that, require a level of responsibility, bro. Like how's your journey been from wherever you want to start up until now?
Yeah, man. Well, still a challenge, right? I always find myself pressed up against a threshold with it, and I'd be lying if I didn't start off by saying there's a part of me that sometimes wants to get in a car, drive away, never come back. It's like just let go of all responsibilities with my relationship, with my business, with all of it, and just honoring that part, acknowledging that part allows me to create space to do jack all, and fill up my tank so that I can have the capacity to be there for both my relationship and my business. And, the journey really started with a massive breakdown. I mean, a little bit of background. My parents, throughout my life, it was a very chaotic household, a lot of anxiety and a lot of anxiety from my mom's side, a lot of anger and frustration from my father's that was kind of explosive and then repressed, and that was like the tension that was there. And they split and got back together maybe a total of like 5 times. And the last time that they did was 4 months after I moved out of my house and in with my partner, who's now my fiance. And when that happened, it was maybe 4 years after getting my bachelor's in psychology. So that's 4 years of understanding all this shit about, childhood developmental psychology and trauma and all this, like childhood, caretaker wounds and all this stuff, but not necessarily feeling it in my body or having actually explored it. So I understood it. I could use the terminology, all of it, and then this happened, and it was just like all this childhood, all these childhood wounds started to pop up. It got kind of messy and ugly, between my parents and me kind of being in the middle of that. This was about 8 years ago, and then like probably lasted for about a year and a half, 2 years, trying to figure that out. And that revealed itself in my relationship. I mean, it's challenging enough moving in with your partner, and kind of seeing the things that pop up there, but doing so and having navigated that and all of that stuff coming up. So it was like I was in corporate at the time. I had this relationship that I was excited to take to the next level because we were now like living together and exploring what that looked like. It just all blew up in my face, really. I was dysregulated.
Mm.
I did not know what to do with my emotions except like react and need to resolve them in the moment. Everything had to be a fucking conversation, and a lengthy one because I needed to, I was outsourcing my love and my ability to self regulate. And yeah, it just all came to the surface. So that was like the first, really the source of just like feeling overwhelmed by it all and imprisoned by all the things that I had built around me that were not aligned with who I actually wanted to be in the world, my truth. I didn't really have a vision beyond like external, measures of success. So I'm starting off by saying that because what makes it easier for me to acknowledge that part of me that wants to drive the fuck off and never come back is knowing that showing up for these things is the most fulfilling thing I could possibly do when they are aligned with my truth, with what makes me feel alive. It's like, yeah, it's hard work, but it pays off with this feeling of fulfillment that I could never access before that moment broke me down and I started finding myself and what I actually want to create with my life. So it's still a challenge, but the journey started with like, how can I even hold things together that are not even aligned with who I want to be in the world, right? And allowing that to go to shit. So then I could first find out who I am and who I wanted to be and what I wanted in relationship, or regardless of relationship, what kind of man I wanted to be, regardless of external measures of success, and then start building upon that so that I could always come back to that whenever shit gets hard because it still gets challenging as fuck, So that's kind of like the high level of where increasing my capacity to hold both really started, is in having no capacity and no understanding of what it is that I was holding and why.
Very relatable. Very relatable, man. I'm sure I kind of want to speak into that piece around gathering the understanding and the intellectual, um, I guess the intellectual data on, what is going on. And that is one part of the puzzle. I think that for a lot of people, understanding something intellectually is quite often the first step, especially when it comes to emotions, nervous system regulation, um, being in the body, but it is only one part of the process, right? And I think that's where a lot of people get caught up and where we can become. Well, I know for me, when I've learned something or understood it, very it's only a matter of time until I have to go through the actual embodiment process or the somatic process of like clearing out what that new level of awareness has given me access to.
Yeah, well, I like to, and this is really just like the wording that I gave it, to help men that I work with understand. It's like emotional intelligence. Really, I think there's three stages. There's awareness, right? So
Mm-hmm.
emotional awareness is a term that we hear often. It's like I feel sad, right? I feel happy. Then there's understanding. Okay, why do I feel happy? Why do I feel sad? I understand that this is coming from, this experience that I had that maybe resembles something that's made me sad in the past. And then I feel like there's like resilience, regulation, right? You can kind of, that's kind of like the somatic piece of like, I feel the emotion in my body, I can interact with it, and also, just because I have the feeling doesn't mean it's a requirement for me to meet its need right now. But also understanding how to create space for it to move through me, right? And I think that was my biggest challenge. It was like I understood the wheel of emotions, like I understood all this stuff, and I was even like reading some books on how to navigate my relationship, and David Data, Way of the Superior Man. And during that phase, I remember reading that book, and it was like these like massive breakthroughs. It was like, wow, like, I need to be a better leader. I need to create more structure. I need to this, that, all these different concepts. And then conflict would happen, and it would all just go out the fucking window. It was like, fuck, why is it that I know I'm experiencing sadness? I understand that it's not the appropriate time to bring it forward, but when I'm in it, like I'm projecting it onto my partner and not, creating a safe space for her to open up to me, right? So all these concepts, it's so beautiful with social media, like so much information. Literally, you can search for anything. There's literally no excuse. If we're stuck somewhere, even ChatGPT, you can say, hey, make a list of the best authors around this topic. Help me out here, right? It'll give it to you. And it's fucking beautiful that it's accessible. But man, like, one thing I see with what you just brought up the most in men is the information overload, and sometimes like a depression and anxiety that comes with it because they know what's possible. And I definitely felt this way. Sometimes I feel this way, and it's usually a sign that I'm not embodying whatever I just learned. It brings this anxiety and depression because like what's possible, and you just don't know how to access it. You don't know how to be the thing that you see in front of you. And that's why this conversation is so important. Just like, how do you bring into the somatic understanding of emotions, understanding of regulation, and not just men need to regulate themselves more because that's that most valuable asset. Anybody could put that up on their stories because they saw someone post it, but to actually be able to regulate yourself, you gotta go into the dojo and fucking put it to practice. And sometimes it's a challenging and painful journey.
100%, man. 100%. This is I'm loving this conversation already. This is solid. I because I get quite aggressive, because I'm so all about the somatic. Like I throw the books in the bin. I don't want to like it's ironic that we're on a podcast. I'm like, nah, don't listen to the podcast. No, we don't need any of that. Get rid of it. And I can be a little bit of a people call me a bit of a cowboy in this way. Because I most of my work has come through somatic practices. Like I started in the medicine space working with the plants, and I'd never done a personal development. I'd never read a book. I'd never done anything, and I got exposed to ceremony, and that was where I took a deep dive on that path, and then I started to gather and read books, and those books actually helped me understand what I was feeling. So I
Mm.
think like I really just want to because I know I'm just going to give a bit of a disclaimer. I can be a bit top heavy, a bit lopsided on like somatic. So I just want to say like awareness is a really important part of the process, and understanding things is really important. And I've learned that with a lot of my clients is actually for them to trust me to take them through an experience, actually helping them understand something is important, but we don't stop there. So you obviously had a lot of information and you understood things, man. What was the next step for you in, you, and also I'm very much been in this sort of season with Meg going through her rite of passage of birth coming up. I've found it really hard to uh, be compassionate and have capacity with her, and I can see the parts of me that are projecting, like my frustration, my anger in passive aggressive ways. So man, I'd love to know what were the practices or the work that you got exposed to or that you engaged with that
Mm-hmm.
took you from like, oh, I understand it to I'm able to clear out what's there and regulate my nervous system, build this resilience and fortify my structure to be able to hold my vision and my relationship.
Yeah. Well, man, just honoring, we spoke about this a little bit before we hit record, like just honoring you for talking about, where you're at in your journey of your rite of passage of becoming a father, right? And like you said, podcasts are information. So let's just take a moment right now. I'm curious to hear, right? If we just, and anybody listening, if you just take 5 seconds, check in with ourselves. I'm curious how you feel right now with this threshold approaching, and then I'll check in and share how I feel.
I'm so scared of fucking it all up. I'm like terrified that I'm going to get it wrong. And that has me feeling anxious. It has me feeling I don't know if the right word is urgent, but I feel erratic. I
Yeah,
feel so far from present. And yeah, man, like that's where I'm feeling. Yeah, I'm erratic. I'm an anxious mess, man.
yeah, yeah,
Mm,
bro. Thank you. I'm sure someone's listening to you say that. Maybe they're not about to become a father. They could resonate in some way, right? And I'm not about to become a father. But as soon as you said that, I was like, yeah, there's a part of me. Every podcast I join, every conversation is a part of me that feels like I'm is afraid of fucking it all up, right? Every time I'm leading, every time I'm responsible for someone's well-being, I feel like I'm gonna fuck it all up, right? And that part of me that feels erratic as well. And just checking in with myself right now, I feel a little bit of that. That hearing you definitely woke that up for me, and also feeling really empowered. I'm crossing a threshold and just feeling really empowered and feeling grateful for the way that my partner is showering me with love lately and recognizing all the work that I put in. So I'm bringing some of that, and
mm.
just wanted to take a moment to do that because we're talking about emotions. I mean, like anybody who's listening is literally just pause it right now, check in. Like you don't have to tell anybody, but just owning it without shame is really what I wanted to answer your question with. It's like um, the first step, was one hearing or reading. I don't know if it was on a podcast or a story or a book I was reading. Was like talking about releasing the shame around those emotions and those feelings. And there was a part of me that for so long was like, no, like I can't feel these things. They don't belong in this space. They don't belong in my work. They don't belong in my relationship. So that was like, whoa, what do you mean? Like it's helpful for me to just acknowledge my feelings and not put them aside and ignore them. The next practice was really finding spaces where I could feel them. Right. I remember first time I was in a men's group, and maybe I was frustrated with my partner. Maybe there was something for me to take ownership of in a way that I needed to show up more regulated and grounded. But I still received the space to feel that frustration. And I was like, hold up, but like I've got to do better, right? It's like, no, but wait, yeah, we're not saying go curse your partner out, but it sounds like you're angry. Let's create some space for you to express that anger, right? So that was like another thing for me. It was just like it's productive for me to express my anger. What? Like, and just having that space to feel it was like every fucking time, bro. Every time I did it, I would, feel lighter. I would feel like, whoa, I actually feel less anger because I allowed myself to um, express that. And then that translated into me showing up into my relationship at the next moment of conflict, or even resolving that one, like being able to take ownership without like raising my voice or closing my heart, because I had expressed it and created space for it. So I think really having a safe space where men can, I think anybody, this applies to anybody, men can share, express, have other people hold that emotion, that thought, that feeling without judgment and without any expectations. It's like those men that held space for me the first couple of times I stepped into a men's group, first time I worked with a coach, first time I went to a workshop that did some sort of somatic practices. It was like they didn't care if I did or I didn't. They just wanted me to have the opportunity to move closer towards my intention, which was to be my most authentic self, and they reflected to me that it had worked for them, and I was also witnessing other people doing that. So that's what I would invite. It's like just checking in, connecting with that emotion, and acknowledging the shame, and then just like doing the best to just say it's okay to feel this way, and um, doesn't mean that I need to project it towards my partner or swallow it and, avoid facing it. Because, my partner's not pregnant, but I feel that from time to like, fuck, it's like, I just want to, curse her out or flip the fuck out for something that I got impatient about or felt mad about, so hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, man, makes a load of sense. The two things I took from that were it's important to do this kind of work with others. It's not just a solo practice. I think what you said around like having people be like, we're going to hold space whether you want to do this or not, and we're not going to judge you whether you do it or you don't. And you got to witness other people in their process as well and normalize it. I think that is such a beautiful thing, and that, once again, reading a book is a solo practice. Listening to a podcast is something you can do on your own. So when you actually get in the room with others, there's this thing that happens where you have this whole new dynamic, and that's why I love men's groups. That's why I love any practice that we stand in a circle. I know magic is going to happen because there is going to be this beautiful space that is created. So that's the first one that I took, and I'd love to um, hear a little more about some of the stuff that you've done in those spaces. And then the second thing was what am reminding myself. I was like, when I go and actually process my emotions in an appropriate way, in a circle with other men, within my own practice, it's when I come back into my relationship, my communication is so much better. It's
Mm.
not loaded. It's not like a loaded gun that's about to go off. It's not. There isn't eggshells that I'm tiptoeing around, or my partner doesn't feel like a burden. It's like I've actually got the capacity to communicate what is going on for me, and not only what's been going on, but what my desires are and what my boundaries are. Because when I give that containment to Meg, that's all she's really looking for. She's looking to know, where do I stand? Where is our connection at? And when are we actually taking the time to drop in and cultivate our intimacy outside of both of our jobs, outside of the chores of the house, outside of the community that we're a part of? Like, when are we prioritizing each other and making sure that we own that that's an important part of our lives? Because we, at the end of the day, like, that's our primary role, is to be lovers. I've got
Yeah.
friends, I've got workmates, I've got people that I get, but lovers is our primary role. When are we actually taking time to be that? And that's, just last night we were up having a huge process around my lack of communication because I'm jacked up with emotion right now. So thank you, man, for just shining a light and giving me the awareness with your story there.
Yeah. Man. I think in what you shared, there's a difference between that. That is the difference between projection and revealing, right? It's
Mm,
like when we process our shit in spaces outside of our relationship, we can then bring it into the relationship as a revealing. Like right now I'm feeling very frustrated, and it has nothing to do with you but XYZ, right? Like
mm,
that is a revealing versus like maybe not even mentioning it, but snapping with passive aggressive remarks, and then when you do address it, perhaps saying something that when we do address it, saying something that doesn't necessarily align with how we actually want to show up in relationship and create that intimacy. So I think that's the biggest thing. It's because we could easily pendulum swing to the other side of like I've been projecting my emotions. I don't like how this feels. My partner is getting turned off. We're growing further from apart from each other. So I'm going to just shut down, avoid my emotions completely, and not be vulnerable.
mm,
And there's a lot of conversation, social media everywhere, of like asking men to be more vulnerable. And yes, that is important. We do need to create spaces for men to feel more comfortable being vulnerable, and our partners don't want to be our therapists either, right? So it's like having these spaces allow us to navigate it, to explore it, to go into the depths of it, to feel it, and then to bring it back in a way that feels integrated. And it's like, hey, I'm feeling this way, and here's what I'm doing to navigate that. Just want you to be aware of where I'm at. And I found that when I do that in my relationship, it almost even turns my partner on sometimes. It's like, here's my shadow, or here's my feeling, or here's the thing. Just want to let you know I'm feeling this way, but it has nothing to do with you. And there's almost like a trust, I guess, that she feels from that. Like, okay, well, he's not perfect, and he's owning this. That's fucking hot. So, um, uh, just honor you for moving like that in your relationship. Um, I know for myself, it can still be a challenge, and just always having even just a friend to call. Say, I just had my men's team call yesterday, and it's like, fuck, I don't have another one till another week or 2 weeks. It's like just having a buddy, having a homie that you can ask for 3 seconds. And literally, there's times where I'd be like, dude, I don't need advice. I don't need reflections. I don't need coaching. I just wanted to call and say I'm fucking pissed right now, and yeah, I just needed a space so I can share that and let it out. And that automatically just like allows me to show up more grounded wherever wherever it is that I need to show up, whether that's relationship or my business. Because the business is is as much the reflection, expression of the feminine as my partner. And sometimes I want to say fuck the business, light it on fire, and walk away too. So it's like sometimes I just need that space with a friend and be like, dude, this just happened, and it's bothering the shit out of me. I just needed to share it, and then come back to the business with some love. you know.
mm. Yeah, it's that is like exactly how I feel at times, man. Like I've got this beautiful business that wants more of me, that wants me to go deeper and more and have more impact and gather more finances, and then my relationships, like I want more love and I want more depth and I want more intimacy, and these things are, if I'm not filling my cup, I then see these two things as they're taking from me. And then I've got to
Mm,
protect myself from these two things that want more of me, more of me, more of me. And I get super defensive. And like you were saying, it's not necessarily that we go and like project that specific emotion. Like I don't go up and start yelling at Meg if I'm feeling angry or frustrated, but my body language is like is completely and utterly closed.
right.
Like I cannot I cannot hide my closure. And if you've got for anyone that has a woman that's walking this world connected to her feminine core, she will know. She will know. There's no way you can hide it. You think that you're doing a good job of hiding your closure or your frustration. She sees straight through that. And the truth is it is such a like you said, a turn on for your woman when you bring awareness to that, and she doesn't have to guess, or she doesn't have to feel that for you. She's like, what's up? If you like, for me, it's like, hey, my love, the truth is, you're big, and this is like real time, man, for me, like, hey, lover, you're about to give birth to a child that I'm terrified of the responsibility about, because this is what I've wanted my whole life. And when I get what I want, I get really nervous that I'm going to lose it.
Mm.
And that's a huge thing for me. I've always been so scared of actually getting what I want, because when I get what I want, I'm terrified of losing it. And I don't know how to actually enjoy the the thing that I'm getting, and I'm scared that I'm going to fuck it up. And I've also got this big vision of bringing men together on the land, and that's really alive for me. Right at the same moment that becoming a dad is also really alive for me, and it's
Mm.
so, and like having to navigate the balance of both of these things is causing me so much internal grief.
Mm.
And like being able to actually communicate. And I'm saying that to you, bro. I'm gonna have to go and sit down and say this to Meg after. I'm almost like, okay, you're the bro right now that's hearing me in this. And yeah, that's that. Just having that dialogue, or having the capacity to then bring it to her in that way. She now understands where I'm at. She doesn't have to
Mm.
guess through her own feeling body what's going on for me. He's closed. Why? Or I can feel he's standoffish. Am I a burden? Am I asking too much of him?
Mm.
And
And
it
it becomes
creates
a projection cycle.
exactly. And then she's worried that she's projecting, and then she's sort of like Meg's going, I'm sorry that I'm too much. And I'm like, actually, like I just haven't. I can see that this is a creation of uh, my own unwillingness to feel what I need to feel, so I can communicate what's actually here.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, man, I'm feeling the depth of that, and just really appreciate you sharing, because it deeply resonates. The part that stuck out for me. You said, when you get what you want, you're afraid of it, going away. Like there's a part of me that feels like when I get what I want, like there's gonna be the shoe's gonna drop. Like where's the shoe ready to drop? And then what that leads me to do in my life is like, if it doesn't drop and there's no chaos, I'll create it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll create it in order to feel productive, in order to feel like, I'm doing something, in order to take my mind off the discomfort of the fear of possibly losing it. So I really resonate. Just appreciate you sharing that, and I don't think it ever goes away. I don't think it ever, and that's another thing that I needed to learn, and really helped me, and that goes back to compassion, like knowing that it never really goes away. We just get better at integrating it, navigating it, regulating it, and then it goes away, maybe for some areas of our lives where we feel more confident and maybe have created evidence. There's nothing to worry about. But then we reach another threshold. It sounds like you're at a threshold, right? You're stepping to the next evolution of your men's movement, and then next evolution of relationship and of life as a man, becoming a father. It's like it's gonna rear its head, right? Because I think there's just it's a protective mechanism. It's a loyal soldier. I forgot who I heard say that. It's just like, it's ready to protect us whenever something new is showing up in our lives. And maybe when we were young, both of us had this, would have things that we enjoyed, and then would get just like swept from underneath our feet. So I think the only way to really like, um, allow ourselves to step into the next stage of our personal development, of our growth on this journey, is to just almost like the Olympics just wrapped up. I was watching the Paralympics, and it's like a baton being passed in a relay race. Rather than like running away from that part of us, rather than like the looking at it with anger, disappointment, and snatching the baton. It's like, bro, thank you for caring so much that you just like popped up in this really new space and time in my life. I appreciate you for keeping me safe all these years, and for reminding me to, take note and be aware of what's going on right now, so I don't take it for granted. But I've got it from here. Like I've got it from here. Like we've got this. We've cultivated the capacity to build this organization, to build this business, to be of service in this way, and to be, a father, a leader, a partner. Um, and then there's the other piece too. I just want to weave in. It's like always checking if it's in alignment, right? Because oftentimes what I've seen within myself and seen with men I work with is like there's this vision. It felt maybe aligned at some point, and then new inspiration came, and maybe things evolved, and I could easily get attached to what it was supposed to look like. Like I said, I was gonna, create this program by this date, and it was gonna be this filled up, and going back to the numbers of like 10K months and all this shit, and we maybe don't listen to the need of the moment of like, oh, actually, it will be fulfilling right now. It'll be a stretch, but it actually feels really aligned with what I can bring to the world. At like my greatest, most like authentic expression of myself would be maybe doing one retreat this year, not two. And putting some of that energy to this new like creature that's coming into your
Mm,
life, right? So that's something I always like to bring, because there's a lot of information about men needing to hold more, men needing to cultivate the capacity to, and that's my tagline is increase your capacity to lead and love. But that
mm.
doesn't mean that you're going past your limit, and that doesn't mean that you're taking on just because you can, right? It's like just because you can doesn't mean you have to or you should. But increasing your capacity allows me to show up when the time demands it, and then to also just say, baby, tomorrow I'm going away. I'm not going to be available. What do you need to feel taken care of? Tell my co-founder, like, bro, tomorrow I'm not doing jack shit. Going on a hike. Do you need anything from me? And then that whole day, not holding a single damn thing, so that I can come back when, you know, the things in my life you know, do need me to show up at that capacity.
Yeah, bro. That framing is so beautiful. Like the way that you framed that for your partner or for your co-founder. It's like I'm not just going on the hike. I'm actually informing you where I'm at and what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and making sure if there's anything that you need before I go, that I put those things in place. And I've
Mm.
been fucking that up the last month, definitely.
Yeah.
I definitely haven't been having that level of providing context, and I think that's a beautiful thing. I think if anyone was to take a real nugget from today's podcast, it's like it's that. Hey, and that was probably from you checking in on with yourself. Hey, maybe you. Because like for me, bro, I'm open, and I hold, and I'm open. I stay open. I try to fill my entire capacity, and then all of a sudden it's like, nah, close. Everyone get away, and I'm either blown wide open or locked shut. And I'm learning to be more like a camera lens. And I'm like, oh, actually, what's in my focus right now? Do I want
Mm.
a wide focus and be open to everything? Or am I zooming in? I'm just being like single focused in my relationship or on myself or on the business. And that has been a big thing for me. And like what I heard in that beautiful way that you framed it is like you were setting a boundary with love. It was like, hey, lover, I'm taking tomorrow for myself. And is there anything that you need to be taken care of while I'm away? Because I'm going on a hike. I'm not going to have phone service. I'm going to be connecting with myself, filling my cup. Is there anything that you need? And that's like, for me, what I heard, and that was like, it's like the most beautiful setting of like, hey, I'm not going to be available tomorrow, but I really love and care about you. What can I do to make sure that your needs are met? Because I have a responsibility as a man in this relationship.
Mm. Yeah, you know what? I'm happy that landed, and what really taught me. Um, I think it's based on a framework that my teacher John Wineland had shared once a couple years back. But what really taught me the power of that was rite of passages, because
Mm,
going away, I go away days. Well, I go away for more than 8 days, but I'm out of service completely for 8 days twice a year, and it's a long time. And you know, my partner fully supports my mission, my vision. She's turned on and excited about my work and just how committed I am to it. But also, she craves love. She craves presence. So when those times come up, sometimes she gets a little flustered and would rather me not go. Right. Especially if there's anything else going on at home, regardless of what it is. So just saying, like, I'm gonna be gone for 8 days in May. I mean, I go away next Friday for 8 days, right? And I'm flying Tuesday, so that's 8 days plus an extra like five days on the back end, the front end, and at least a month in advance. Just saying, my love, I'm going away for 8 days. My flight is on this day, and I don't come back till this day. Like, what do you need? And there was a nice list, right? And that allowed her, like, we just had our landlord come in today and fix the water heating system. And I know if I hadn't like put that on the list and done something about it, maybe it could have waited a bit longer. But I know she wouldn't have been too happy about it. Would have came up while she was alone, like, fuck this cold water, right? And she would have brought it up when I got back. And it's not about the cold water, right? It's not about this list. It's about, can I trust that he will do everything he can to take care of me, even when he's going out to battle, right? Quote unquote, like
Mm.
his mission. So it's helped me tremendously, just like understand what she needs, and then that helps me be honest with her about which of those needs I can meet, which is another thing. Like, I've gotten stuck on that part of, like, she gives me the list and I'm like, fuck. And then 2 weeks beforehand, I put everything on my plate. I try to do all of the things on that list. I make another list for my business and I try to do all that shit. And then by the time I go out to guide, I'm like burnt out because I spent 2 weeks on calls back to back, writing shit, fucking dealing with the landlord, like literally everything. And then I'm resenting her, right? And I'm resenting my business. So it's like receiving the list so that ahead of time I can be like, my love, I can do these five. Is there anything else that you feel like is a top priority? Can these wait? And then being willing to say no, which I think, even though in the moment might stir up some things for our partner, it also turns them on. It's like,
Mm.
I can do this and I'm committing to that because I want to support you. I want you to feel taken care of and I fucking love you. And these I can't do. I'm sorry. Can you ask your friend if she could do this, or can this wait till I get back? And that just saves so much like confusion, conflict, and it creates compassion. Because just because I'm a masculine man in my relationship doesn't mean I have to hold it all. And I also need her support and to be met where I need some things as well, right? Which there's a one thing I love, and I always tell my partners when I come back from trips, the house just has this energy. She cleans like the day before. The candles are lit. There's flowers. The plants look like they've been watered like just the right amount. Everything just feels like like honey, and
Mm.
that's something that feels good. And she desires to do more of that. When I do the pieces like hang up this picture frame, call the landlord, give the dog a vet visit, all these little things. She wants to, not as a reciprocal, I have to. She wants to offer me more of her love. So that's something that's gone a long way for me, and I think any man that I've seen do that, it just brings so much more love into the space.
Yes, yes, yes. So much there, and I kind of want to like second what you said. It's not about you ticking off the list and being, oh, he's done all of the things. Now I'll give him what he wants. That's not that, like, we talk about Data's work. That's that sort of 50-50 relating. If he does this, I'll do this. If I do this, he'll do this. But it's almost like because I love this woman and because I care about her and her well-being is important to me, I'm willing to do what needs to be done
Mm.
because I'm going to go away and serve my mission and do the work that I'm here to do. And when I come home, I want to come home. I want someone to come home to. One of my bros, Lino, he said that he's like, bro, what do you do when you finish your vision quest or you go out and you do your ceremony? What do you do? He's like, you go home. And who do you go home to? The people that you love. So they're pretty important, aren't they? And I was like, yeah. He's like, so it's pretty important to give them some of the time and energy that you give your vision or your mission, right? And I was like, yes. He's like, so it's both. And I was like, yeah, that's so true. And um, I have a habit of getting fixated on one or the other. And rites of passage have been huge in showing me how uh, to be more harmonious in my approach to my relationship and my vision. And that that was like, I just want to sort of circle back, and this may be true for a lot of other guys that are in that kind of growing or building their kingdom phase. I thought I could only have either a really good relationship or a really successful business. I couldn't have both.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
now I'm learning it's about, oh, I get to have both and they get to grow together. Like maybe I'm not the millionaire that I thought I'd be, or maybe my relationship isn't as deep and as intimate as I want it to be. But when I actually acknowledge where I'm at and what the next steps are in both of those arenas, I can actually move with intention and integrity and not overreach or overpromise and underdeliver in either of those. And I guess, yeah, man, I'd love to know, like, with the rites of passage work that you guys do, like, how do you see that influencing, how has that influenced you and your capacity? Or how do you see that in the clients or the men that you work with? How do you see this rites of passage work, which I just wish it to become the most normal thing in the world.
Yeah.
How do you see that impacting these men and their relationships and their work?
Yeah, great question. Well, I'll start off by pointing out something you brought up. Like, it reaches a point where they feed each other, the relationship and the business and the mission. It's almost like they nourish each other. You go out for the vision and for your mission, and to deepen your capacity there, and you return, like you said, back home to the people you love.
Mm,
They feed that part of you, and then the other way around.
mm,
Um, the vision gets to the mission gets to feed the people you love, right? Because you show up even more powerfully. And for myself, I mean, 4 years ago was when I did my rite of passage, and it was one of the most powerful experiences I ever did. It was very humbling. It was like, yeah, I remember I wanted to, I was thinking about what kind of man I want to be on the other side of this, and there was like this warrior king energy, like this. I just want to be a king. I think there's like the desire of any young man, and I got humbled really quick. One of my guys was like, "Yeah, well, have you been the best warrior you could be? Have you been the best prince that you could be?" Right? And and when we look at depth psychology and even archetypes, they say that man doesn't really step into his king until like 50, 60 years old, but just having guides that, again, at the deepest level, had no expectations from me, wants me to own my power, like step into my power, claim my seat at my table. And, well, hold on, like, let's not get ahead of ourselves and trip over ourselves here. Like, how can you be, what kind of a gift would it be if you brought more love into your warrior phase? How would your relationship look like, right? So there was like a um going back to integration, like going on doing this work, kind of reminded me of all the things that I already knew about myself but was not making a change on, or was not integrating. It was like, wow, if I didn't learn a single other thing right now, everything, and I focused on integrating and embodying what I already know, my life would change drastically. right? It's like drastically. I don't need to read another book to, it's like, and just facing off with those parts of myself that, maybe want to skip the line and go to that leadership position, feel good about myself and be seen and all these different things like that itself increased my capacity to be a better leader. It's like to be, sometimes you got to pick up, chop wood and carry water. And like that has a bigger lesson than, standing in the front of the room and teaching what rite of passage is about. It's like, being willing to carry the water and to chop the wood to keep yourself warm and to keep everyone hydrated is sometimes it has given me more insight into how to has allowed me to increase my capacity in both my mission and my relationship more than like a lot of other pieces of that work. So with men, we say like the top three things is one, conditions for clarity. So ultimately it's like being out there by yourself. You realize that a lot of the answers come from within. Any books you read are just kind of lighting those up. We all read something, we had no idea about it, but as soon as you read it, there's this light that just lights up. You're like, holy shit. That's because there's a part of us that already knew that. Just didn't have the words for it, right? So it's like conditions for clarity to find the answers within yourself. Realizing your true power, which is both like your weaknesses and your strengths, like both of those, there's power in both of those as long as we honor them and are aware of them. Sometimes we can't be aware of them unless we strip everything away, like even the business responsibilities. Yes, building a business creates grit, create the failure forward, creates a lot of understanding of self. But like sometimes we need to step away from that and not do jack shit and just be in silence in order to really see what we're capable of. And then third is having community of men that can support us. There's like the element of rites of passages. You're supported and guided by men right up to the threshold, and then you're on your own. But while you're on your own, you know that there's men out there who care about you. So it combines this element, because sometimes with men's work we can become codependent on our men's team. And there's like, and I see this as well, and like rite of passage work has taught me of like, I've got my guys and I know that they've got me, and I will step into the space to receive reflections and be supported in anchoring into my intention with whatever I fucking do. But just knowing that allows me to go a little bit beyond what I thought I'm capable of and trust myself when there's no one else around me. So I think those are the three things that I gained the most from rites of passage, which Bill Plotkin calls soulcraft. Right? It's like you're fucking going to the depths that most people aren't willing to go into, and you're finding out something about yourself that the fucking world needs more of. And the only way to find it is by stepping away from the world and going into the depths of like the pain, the suffering, the fucking doubt, the fear, the love. Like, man, I've seen men go into the depths of joy out there that they haven't allowed themselves to, and that is like heartbreaking. Like that joy is vulnerability, and like not allowing ourselves to go that deep into joy can sometimes be heartbreaking. So like going into those depths, the full range of all of it, I see being such a fucking gift in men's lives. It's been a gift in my life. And whenever I see men come back across the threshold, that look in their eyes, like I've got something, like I've got a fucking gift, and I'm so excited to bring it back to my people. There's nothing like that, man. It just fills me up and reminds me of my own mission.
Yes, man. Yes, that's the quest, like the rite of passage, and coming back through the threshold with the eyes like clear, and you can just see that there's something behind them. They're like, I'm bringing something back that, and it's not. I don't know. It's when you spoke about alignment and like, is this aligned? Like for me, like going and doing my rites of passage, that is like brought such clarity to what I am, like what I'm aligned to, and what is actually here for me to deepen with, whether it's a relationship or a part of my vision and the projects that I'm creating. And that, like, there's almost like it's as if the resistance has been removed,
Mm.
and I'm now able to fully give myself to what it is that I like. It was always there.
Mhm.
And yeah, man, that's we do a facilitator training. We got the guys in the sweat, and they all came out of the sweat, bro. And it was almost like they'd touched something that they knew was there, but they didn't know how to reach.
Mm.
They all came out of the sweat after, the songs and the 4 rounds, and they came out, and it was so beautiful to see them all. They were changed, and not so much were they changed men, but they were now men that had a deeper connection to themselves
Mm.
through a rite of passage. And when they and I love what I think, like, for me, the practice is always like, how do I take this off the mountain? How do I take what I've cultivated down the mountain back into the marketplace? And that is why um, the 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 men's work that I'm doing more and more now is around how do we create appropriate experiences that don't have men just going to these retreats or these circles to trauma bond or to escape life, or go for go on a, I call it going to Disney World for the weekend, and you forget about all your problems, and then when you go back, all your problems are still there, but you've kind of just escaped them, and you're coming back and just going back into your old ways. So I think what you spoke about in around that codependency, it's really important to have the appropriate measures in place with these experiences for men, so they're not just, oh, men's work's my new hobby. No, it's a cornerstone of your life that allows you to go back and be more of who you are, and bring more joy, bring more discernment, bring more clarity, bring more uh, direction. And I think that's, for me, that's been a revealing journey of my, like, immature kind of, oh, let's go and do men's work and be loud and proud, to, all right, how is this actually serving me when I go home to my woman and my soon to be child?
Mm. Man, thank you for sharing that. I couldn't have said it better. You mentioned trauma bonds with men's work. I mean, whether it's plant medicine, men's work, just personal development, general books, right? It's like we can become uh, so addicted to the highs of those peak experiences and of those, those moments of like of hits and breakthroughs and cathartic releases, and forget to enjoy life right now. Like when you mentioned Disney World, what I was thinking was you have this experience, and then when you don't integrate it, it's almost like you feel like you're unhappy without it, right? So then you start fantasizing and kind of thinking about Disney World while you're having sex, while you're stressed at work, while you're like I'm exaggerating, but really you're thinking about like this escape, and it's no longer, like you mentioned, a cornerstone. And it's like, how can you bring, which has been my edge, how can I bring more joy into the present moment? Like, how can I be like happy with how things are right now? How can I, like you mentioned, bring the discernment, bring the accountability, bring the heart open love that we all feel after a men's work experience, right? It's like, how can I bring that right now to this moment and make my life Disneyland?
Mm,
Like, and then also recognize that you can trip and break a leg in Disneyland. You can trip and break a leg in life too. It's like Disneyland is awesome, and you can get pretty hurt if you'd because life is life, and there's gonna be some shoes that drop that you're not prepared for, and there's gonna be some that you are, and none of it matters unless we actually take the practice off the mat, and like you said,
mm,
onto, I love that you said marketplace. It's like
mm,
we're giving a gift to the world, and that's really why we do it. Otherwise it doesn't matter. Like, the real work is with our partner, the real work is with our family, the real work is with our friends, the real work is with your mom or your dad, which you're avoiding talking to, raising my hand for that. Sometimes there's a part of me that's still, it's like, where am I not being the version of myself that I accessed at these experiences.
Yes, that's we have this sort of cheeky rule in our men's retreat is like, if you're going to come and be a part of the crew or part of the lead team, one of the conditions is you have to invite your dad.
Mm.
And it's like everyone sort of like goes, and it's like, oh, cool. There's the edge. It's like, and that's always been a real thing for me. I'm like, all right, whenever I'm feeling resistance to the next stage of something, I'm like, who don't I want to invite, or who don't I want to talk to about this, or who would I fear their judgment the most around? And then that's been a huge one for me and been a massive. It's been so beautiful to invite my family into my way of life and to not hide it or separate it anymore. And I think that's what I loved about, what you just shared then, is like, yeah, can we actually bring these, like you said, when the vision feeds the family and the family feeds the vision, they become one. And that's been my practice, is like removing those separation between this part of my life and that part of my life. Oh, I can be super deeply vulnerable with my bros, but then when I'm like feeling disconnected from my sister and I feel like something's going on for her, I avoid it. I don't open up and start the conversation. And I did that recently, and I got a whole lot of stuff reflected back to me where I really, really dropped her and the
Mm.
family unit. And I had to do that to go and figure out who I was. But once again, I didn't give the right communication. I didn't say, hey, I'm actually going to pull back from family time and go on this journey to reveal who I really am, because I'm not happy. I'm not enjoying life. But I just cut them off and I just stopped texting. I just stopped going along to things. I just stopped doing that. And I realize now, through opening up to that, I got some feedback that I didn't feel amazing, but it was illuminating and allowed me to realize, I get to do something about that now. I get to
Mm.
prioritize these connections and not let them fade. I get to actually re-engage.
Mm.
And that for me was a huge thing. So you saying about like they feed each other is such a beautiful reminder for me. And for anyone that thinks they have to separate family and work and all of these things, maybe you do need to for a time, but there's going to be a point where these things all come back together and want to feed each other.
Yeah, I love that, and it just makes me think like I used to often feel confused, is like, but the part of me that shows up in my relationship isn't necessarily the part of me that shows up in my business. And what you just said provides that distinction, right? It's like they get to meet, and you have different facets of yourself that you get to express based on the needs of the moment. And with your partner versus your sister versus your business, there's different parts of you that are going to, be needed in order to meet the moment. And when we allow them all to kind of converge in some way, um, it really just means that we're being authentic. It's like, I know who I am. I have, maybe my parents won't accept it, but this is who I am. This is what I'm bringing into the world, and sometimes that's without words, right? Something we say when guys, come back and they're starting to integrate the journey, is that your story gets to be shared in different ways. Sometimes in words, right, and
Mm.
sometimes in actions, and people will notice, right? So even if you don't feel like your father would be open to hearing your story, and that you fasted for 4 days and 4 nights on the mountain, and why you did it, and maybe he, whatever, you showing up, if you claimed on that mountain, I'm going to be a more loving, heart-centered man, how can you show up as a more loving, heart-centered man and share that with him through action? He'll feel it. He doesn't need to know that it was because you did this thing, or this is, he will feel it. And I think just acknowledging that allows us to take off, the pressure of like needing to have the right words to communicate something to someone, but rather like integrating it and taking risks and opening up our hearts when maybe the other person is not willing to, because we all have a family member that maybe is difficult to navigate conflict with, right? And rather than pulling away, going to live in Bali for 5 years, right? It's no judgment there. I lived in Bali too, but sometimes we could get caught up in like the safety of removing ourselves from the human experience, which is really, just landing this piece here is like one thing I'm really committed to is bringing men's work and just everything I do back to the human experience, to culture. Right. I
Mm,
think oftentimes we can disassociate from that, and people are having different experiences and are at different stages of trauma, and are just like bringing back like everything we do to the human experience, and not judging anybody for not being at any stage or years or quantity of plant medicine journeys or having like any of that. Like everybody's just human, just trying to do their best. And the more we bring the work to like the culture and to the human experience, the more people feel safe and called to do it at their own time, including our parents, family, and all the people that we interact with when we come back from our own experiences.
mm. Oh, brother. Yeah. Man, thank you for this. Yeah, beautiful. That feels like such a full stop on our conversation. And it's the piece that I took from that is like everyone's on their own journey, man, and like you get to be compassionate, and you also get to go on your journey. Don't hold back. So anyone listening, just like, yeah, there's been so many amazing gold nuggets throughout this one, but I'm just really grateful that you've taken the time today, bro. Is there anywhere that you want to direct people if they're interested to find out more about what you do?
Yeah, it was an honor. I really enjoyed this conversation. I feel like we could go on for days. Yeah, so I mean, if anybody's curious about rites of passage in the States, you can go to mrmthreshold.com. We're currently revamping the site, but there's a lot of great information there, and it's deeply aligned with what we're doing. If you want to learn more about my work, you can visit my website, josealejandro.co, or Instagram. That's pretty much the social media platform where I bring, all of my work kind of converges. So that's at r Jose underscore Alejandro, and there's some links there. There's just I try my best to uh, treat social media like service media, so bring as much value as I can through that, and beyond that, you know, whatever is aligned will reveal itself, and uh, will be the next step for you.
Mm. Right on, man. I'll grab those links and I'll put them down in the show notes, guys. So if you do want to check any of that out, head down below. And yeah, man, it's just once again, it's so beautiful to connect in with another man on the path that is in a deep service to a vision that is that I can get behind, and to hear that in that deep long term relationship with your fiance, and to, yeah, man, like these experiences for me, sometimes it's just like, oh, it's so nice to share this with the world. But yeah, this one feels like it's been just for me, bro. So thanks for making the time, thanks for being here, and I really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And thank you for taking your time and for sharing your heart, allowing me to share a little bit of mine as well.
Right on, bro. Thanks for listening, guys. See you next week. Big love.